Hi everybody, welcome back to another video. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Pooja, and if you're coming back, thanks so much for stopping by for another video. Before we get started, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and of course, leave a comment if you have something to say about what I had to say. Now, today's video is going to be a little bit different in tone than most of my past videos because I normally am a pretty mild-mannered and happy person, and that's what I like to put forth on this channel, but something really just got under my nerves recently, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit, which is why I am talking about it in this video. So, the story begins a couple weeks ago. If you don't know, just recently on Netflix, they released a film adaptation of Aravind Adiga's Booker Prize winning book, The White Tiger, so I watched it. I thought it was a good movie, kind of Slumdog Millionaire vibes, but I enjoyed it for the most part and thought the performances were fantastic. And of course, knowing that it's based on a prize-winning book, I thought, hey, I should read the book and see what that's like, and if I like the book or the movie better, it would be fun to compare. So I went on to my Libby app and I was like, okay, let's look for the book. Found the book. The book had a hold of it was like a 6-week wait to get the book version, but the audiobook version was available, so I said, okay, cool, I'll get that version. So I got it, and let me show you what this audiobook version was like. Just be prepared for this.
Pavement, back in the days when I was trying to get some enlightenment by going through the Sunday second-hand book market in Old Delhi. This book was mostly about pirates and gold in Hong Kong.
Okay, so yeah, I basically listened to that for like 30 seconds before being like, what the actual... It was weird. So let's talk about what's problematic here. Now, this book is obviously narrated in an Indian accent, but it's not by a narrator who is from India or is originally from India. It's by a white British dude named John Lee. And somehow Tantor Media, which published the audiobook for The White Tiger, thought it was totally fine for a white British dude to do this caricaturish Indian accent and thought it was just normal and fine. And I just struggle with, at this time, in this day and age, how was this even okayed by a publisher? I don't understand. Obviously, it's really offensive to many people, and I began to wonder if this was something that, exists a lot in the audiobook world, because you don't really hear about it that much. Obviously, blackface or brownface or things like that have been discussed when it comes to visual media quite a lot. When it comes to things like television or movies, these are, issues that are always at the forefront. And typically now, at least in recent decades, you've seen that people in Hollywood or people making television shows will try not to do things like that because they know it's really offensive. So I wondered if it's done from a vocal perspective, when it's a voice that is being imitated by someone who is not of that race, and done so in a way that's clearly mocking the accent, is that something that people are talking about? And so I did a bit of research on that, and I actually found a great video on BookTube that discusses this a little bit by Jess Owens. I will put a link to that video, but basically she discusses Dr. Regina Bradley's poem, The Art of Speculatin', which was narrated by Fireside Magazine, and they did the same thing. They had like a white guy read it, and literally the poem is about the experience of being a black woman, so I don't understand how that was okayed, but Jess has a great discussion of that, so you should definitely go check out that video. But I thought, okay, let's go into kind of the history of how this kind of stuff has happened before, and if it's been an issue that has happened a lot, and if it's a prevalent thing, and just kind of talk about it. So the first thing I did was go into John Lee's profile on Libby and see what other books he's narrated. I found some, a bunch of books that he's narrated before. One of them was A Fine Balance by Rohinthan Mistry, who is another Indian author, and he did the same thing in that one. But all these other books that he's narrating, British accent, totally apparently what he normally speaks. I don't understand what possessed the publisher to be like, we need an Indian accent for this book. Let's not hire an Indian person and have a white guy do a very, very poor imitation of one. The logic? Where's the logic? I don't understand. So I think, first of all, to start off with, there's two very easy solutions here to just not be offensive. And one is to get someone of Indian origin or, from India who has an Indian accent and sounds like it could be the narrator of this book, and just have them do this. There's a billion people in India. I'm sure one of them was available to make an audiobook. And then the second solution, obviously, is to just have your white guy read the book, which is fine, but just not do a cringy and offensive depiction of the accent. Just like read the book in your normal voice. It doesn't really matter. The accent doesn't really add to the experience or anything, so just do that. So anyway, that's what I think they obviously should have done. It feels very obvious to me. I don't know if it feels obvious to you, but it feels obvious to me. Anyway, so I thought after that it was worth diving into the history of linguistic imperialism as a whole and how it relates to the world of audiobooks and how this has happened in the past. So the most well-known case of this vocal brownface is obviously Apu from The Simpsons, and there's a lot of conversation and scholarship that has gone into the study of this character, so it's a good example to use. When he was first introduced in 1990, Apu was one of the only representations of Indian Americans or Indians in mainstream American media, so it was lauded as kind of a nod to diversity. It was like, wow, The Simpsons are including people of different cultures. The issue here is A, the character was voiced by a white guy, and B, the character was basically a caricature of all the stereotypes that there are about Indian Americans, just kind of cobbled together into one character. So the responses were mixed here, and many Indian Americans actually enjoyed the portrayal of the character and found it refreshing to have representation, even if that representation was a caricature and was a cobbled together version of a bunch of stereotypes. But the issue here, at the root of it, I think, even worse than the stereotypes, is the fact that they had a white guy play the character when there were probably so many Indian actors out there struggling to find work because these characters didn't exist on television, and they could have given it to one of them, but instead they chose to use a white guy, which entirely subverts the idea of introducing diversity and serves to actually erase the identity of the population that you're actually trying to represent, if that's your argument for why it's okay to have a character like this on television. And so the issue, obviously, isn't the accent itself, but the stereotypes and stigma that are surrounding it. And so Hari Kondabalu, who is a comedian, made a documentary about this character in 2017, and I think he put it pretty well. And he says, Apu's funny, but that doesn't mean this representation is accurate or right or righteous. It gets to the insidiousness of racism, though, because you don't even notice it when it's right in front of you. In society at large, portrayals like Apu, or an audiobook even, can be incredibly harmful because they lead to things like bullying. They lead to things like linguistic profiling when making hiring decisions. They lead to just everyday racism in people's lives. It's important to remember that when the media, the mainstream media, portrays an accent or a person or a race in such a light, it actually has a profound effect on society at large because there are so many people engaging with this media who haven't had a chance to personally interact with that community in their lives. And so for them, this is the only representation they have of a certain community. And so you can see how very quickly things like an accent or a caricaturist portrayal of a community can quickly be turned into a xenophobic weapon. And okay, so that's why the accent that brings stigma along with it can be offensive, but then you might ask, okay, why is it not offensive when, say, an American person or an American actor does a British accent, or if someone else does an American accent? Why are those things not considered offensive as well typically, but an American person or a British person doing an Indian accent or a Nigerian accent or a Brazilian accent, like why is that considered offensive? Okay, so the thing that you have to remember here is it all comes back down to power dynamics and how they exist in our world today. European and European descent accents are never considered uncouth or uneducated. In fact, they're normally considered refined or proper English and are typically considered to be aspirational accents when speaking a language like English that has been totally globalized. Obviously, you never see that the other way around, and typically accents from countries that have been colonized by European powers in the past, those accents are typically considered uneducated or associated with a lack of literacy. And so the issue is that when a person from a country that is an imperialist country in the past is doing an accent from a country that was a colonized country in the past, it's typically done in a discriminatory and offensive way to make fun of that culture for not being able to speak proper English. And obviously there's the legacy of imperialism built in, so the dialects that get the short end of the stick are typically from countries that have non-white majority populations. And so when a white man employs a cringy accent to erase the identity of an Indian man, such as in The White Tiger, or a black woman, such as in Dr. Regina Bradley's poem, there's a lot more than just an accent at play. It's actually representative of the entire power structure that exists globally. So anyway, those are some of my thoughts triggered by an audiobook that I recently listened to and got really annoyed by. Let me know if you've seen any examples of audiobooks that do this as well. And this is something I think as people consuming this media, we have to be responsible for, and we have to hold publishers accountable to and actually reach out to them and be like, hey, this is not acceptable and this is offensive. And that's the only way that things are going to change. That's the only way things did change in television or movies, because people thought things were offensive and actually brought those things to the attention of studio executives. So I think that's something we also have to hold narrators and audiobook publishers accountable to as well. And just because this medium tends to get less attention in the mainstream media doesn't mean this kind of stuff should just, be allowed to happen and we shouldn't make commentary about it. So anyway, that was today's video. Those are my thoughts. Let me know if you have something to say about what I had to say, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And as always, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. And yeah, I will see you guys next time, but thanks so much for watching and have a good one. Bye bye.